Hello everyone, and my name is Steven.
Hey guys, this is Justin.
And today we're here to talk to you about some main personalities that we decided to throw up on our page and just talk randomly about them, honestly. The first one is going to be Krillin, which has 5 personality levels because he's got his SDCC1. So, let's see. Well, might as well just start off reading them off. I'm sure you know what they do. But Krillin level 1, ready. The SDCC version. I think I'm adding too many CCs in there. I don't know. San Diego
no, that's right.
Okay.
San Diego Comic-Con.
It sounded a lot. So he has energy.
Yeah, it's
attack.
kind of mouthful.
Mouthful, yes. Energy attack. Cost 2, dealing 4. The next time a card is discarded from your hand this combat, use a critical damage effect. And then he's got the actual one that was printed from the starters. Energy attack, costs 2, dealing 4. The next time a card is discarded from your hand this combat, use a critical damage effect and raise your anger 2 levels. I honestly...
That's the bonus.
It
bonus
is.
2 anger levels.
It is. I mean, it depends on who you talk to. Because some people say it's not a bonus because they want to play black and they want to stay at level 1.
Yeah, I could see how using the promo version could be beneficial in some decks if you don't want to level up. Because, I mean, his ability is really good with certain decks. Like you said, with black or with blue, because they can just discard a card anytime they, once per combat with their mastery anyways. They're guaranteed, more or less. Maybe not in blue deck, but the black deck at least is guaranteed to be able to proc that ability every single turn. And if you're forced to use the non-promo, you force yourself to level up, because it doesn't say you may raise your anger 2. It's just you have to do it. So yeah, there are advantages to using the promo version. It's kind of strange that there are 2 separate abilities, but it is what it is. It's they made that promo card before the game was actually even out, and I don't really think they kind of anticipated having 2 different abilities. But then they were like, okay, well, we have 2 of them. We'll just let people use them as the card says. Keep them as 2 separate powers, just for deck construction purposes, which is neat. It opens up some variety with Krillin that you don't have with any other characters really, except for God Goku, who's the only other character who has a completely separate power for his level 2. Or I guess in Frieza,
yeah.
The Golden Frieza now too. Forgot about that one, just came out.
Yeah, I definitely like having separate powers. I know the card names are the same, which kind of bugs me as a collector. But yeah. I'm really glad because it kind of like that's one thing I liked about the old game. Essentially, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna take a Saiyan Saga character and I'm gonna take a Trunks Saga, level character, and then I'm gonna like combine them together and have these different unique powers. It's nice to be able to have that starting out, before a second starter set comes out. It's good. I mean, yeah, not every character gets it, but at least there's a couple of characters that you get to kind of test the waters with on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And
add a little spice.
and
plus, that's an awesome ability to want to continue to use. I mean, you get a critical damage effect. It's kind of like the Piccolo level 2. The same deal. You get a critical damage effect, which is extremely powerful in this game. I mean, you get to capture a Dragon Ball or someone's anger or destroy an ally, and you can do that every single turn. And that's one of the good things about the promo Krillin, is that you're just guaranteed that, unless your opponent levels you up somehow.
But yeah, another thing that I like to do with Krillin, especially is in red. He's one of the few, if not only probably one of the characters that has an attack on the majority of his levels. I mean, level 1, 2, and 3 all have attacks, and using that in red is awesome. I call my red deck Crazy Krillin when I play with Krillin, because it's just you literally have the red cards we mentioned before with leveling and de-leveling, those 2 defenses, and then you just literally go, I'm going to use this level 1 power, I'm going to jump, gain the anger from his level 1, and then gain anger from using a crit or whatever, use his level 2, hit his level 3, de-leveled into combat, draw a card, and, boom, you just used like 3 extra attacks at combat without counting any cards in your hand.
Oh yeah, that's one of the great things about Krillin, is that he has, like you said, he has an attack on his first 3 levels, and they're energy attacks, and they're pretty powerful energy attacks too, and that's huge. I think really Ginyu's the only other character, like he has the energy attack on his first 2 levels, and I mean it's so major because you're going to have an energy attack guaranteed every combat. it doesn't even matter what you draw in your hand. Like, if your opponent doesn't have an energy defense every combat, they're going to be taking some damage. That's a pretty big deal. And of course, with something like a red deck, or any deck that gains a lot of anger, as you level up in combat, you have another attack available. And that's massive as well, because you're going to get those basically extra attacks that your opponent may not be able to defend against. And with Krillin, you want to stop him. Like, his level 2 is going to make him discard a card from their hand if it hits, and his level 3 is going to be humongous if you use that like at your last attack during the combat. It does 9 life cards minus the amount of cards in your opponent's hands. And if you advance to that, as one of your last actions in combat, and your opponent doesn't have a hand, that's massive.
Yeah, definitely. So, and can't forget his level 4. I mean, after all the awesomeness of all these extra attacks, the first style attack each turn cannot be stopped. Your first style attack each turn cannot be stopped. I mean, okay, so everything becomes a Destructor Disc, or in the old game, a Heat-Seeking Blast. I mean, really?
Yeah, that's awesome, actually. I mean, that's like one of the coolest abilities, because it just opens up a lot of like any hit effects, really, on any cool hit effects you want. They're just guaranteed. And I know with the red deck, it's really easy to win by MVP, because there are several cards that have hit, raise your anger by 2, and you could just enter combat with him and instantly gain that 2 anger plus whatever else the card says.
Yeah, which is awesome. There's the red static shot at the energy attack costs 5, gain 2 anger if it hits, and they can't use endurance for the remainder of combat. Well, that means they can't use endurance on that card, so unless they actually modify the damage of that card, it's going to be a critical. So you actually gain 3 anger with red, opening up with that. Another cool thing is that I like to do is, like, if you're playing Krillin, this works for any style, honestly. If you open at level 3 and you're about to level, you open up, okay, Krillin level 3 power, I'm going to use something like Devastating Blow, some freestyle card to level up. You still haven't played a styled attack, so you can get 2 attacks off, hit level 4, and use a styled unstoppable attack still in that same combat without even having to start on level 4.
Right, that's a pretty nice thing to do as well. Yeah, Krillin, he's just very powerful. He's a very powerful personality, and it's really evident looking at how many people are using Krillin at the tournaments, and especially looking at these past 2 regionals that we just had. There've been a lot of Krillin decks there, of a number of different styles. But just Krillin himself, he's very versatile. You can pretty much throw him into whatever kind of deck you want, just because his powers are straightforward. His level 1 is kind of, you have to have someone discard a card from their hand. That's really the only one that's deck specific, that you want to have some sort of card discarding effect. But his level 2, 3, and 4 are just awesome to have in any deck, I think. Just having that extra attack is humongous. I mean, most personalities have some sort of passive effect, or like a constant effect, or maybe they have an attack, it's just not very strong, maybe some sort of physical attack. But having an energy attack, like doing life cards of damage every combat, and your opponent has to have a defense every combat to stop it, is a pretty big deal. I mean, if you get 3 of your energy attacks from your power off on your opponents, you're going to have a huge lead, just because that's one extra ability you have that they couldn't stop.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And I don't know if you mentioned this, but the PUR. I mean, he has probably the best PUR in the game as well. It's 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, even Piccolo only goes, I think, 3-3 or 3-3. 4-5 or something, but anyways, yeah, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, that's an amazing PUR. That's better than, I think, anybody else. I think Garlic Jr. has a good PUR like Krillin, but other than that, they're like the only 2 with that have a PUR in the game.
Yeah, the PUR is nice, and it's kind of necessary because he does use energy attacks on his powers, and that's probably why they gave him that big PUR, just to kind of counter how many power stages he's using from his ability. But yeah, that's another bonus is. Yeah, he's weak, but he powers up so quick that you get a big advantage with that PUR. I mean, having a high PUR is a big deal. I don't know if people really pay too much attention to it, but because there's card effects like you gain power stages or power up to full or whatever. But if you have a big PUR, it really is great. I mean, I use Dragon Balls a lot in my decks, and every time I love getting Dragon Ball 6 out, not just for the -2 power stages from their attacks, but that +3 PUR is awesome. It's just awesome.
It's not
I mean,
level 4.
yeah, if you had Dragon Ball 6 on level 4 Krillin, you power up 9 power stages on your turn. Like, that's enough to make any physical beatdown deck cry. They will be sobbing.
It makes me cry.
Yeah. And if you're playing a defensive deck with Krillin, yeah, you're never really you're gonna be at full power stages at the beginning of most combats, I would say.
Yeah, then you just do whatever you want. You got all the energies in the world to perform.
Even if you're just purely defensive in your deck style, just having his power, the attack from his power each combat, like I was saying earlier, that could win you the game, because you have maybe 4 cards in your hand that are all defense. And if your opponent doesn't have an energy defense specifically, you're going to do some damage to him still. And you're probably going to stop everything that he has to throw at you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, that's entirely situational. It could happen, could not. But that's one of the big advantages of having an attack on one of your powers, the ability to do damage on one of your personality powers. Is because they have to think about that every turn. When I'm playing against a Krillin deck, I have to think about that. Like, I may want to keep a certain card in my hand for the next turn, but more than likely, if I draw an energy defense, I'm going to keep it, just because I don't want them getting that extra damage on me. And if they have any way to buff it, like with black or orange, or to do an extra life card, a potential critical hit, or with a red deck, if they've got a red shoulder grab or something like that, it could potentially critical hit. That's just another one of those things that could disrupt the game that you weren't really planning for.
Yeah, and we can't forget about his name cards either while we're on the subject, because he's got 2 of probably the best name cards in the game, in my opinion, as well. I mean, you got his obviously Destructo Disc, which is unstoppable, unpreventable, and its energy attack costs 2, dealing 4. So with a modifier on that of additional +1 life card, it's a guaranteed crit. It's amazing. And then you have his Krillin's Solar Flare, which is energy attack that if it hits, your opponent has to pass. I mean, come on, he's got an attack that can dish out damage that they can't do anything about, and he's got an attack that says, oh crap, I need to get out of combat? I mean, what? That's awesome. That is an awesome personality card.
Oh yeah, it's great, and it fits with his powers too. They're both energy attacks, just just like his powers are. Yeah. I mean, that's what Krillin does. Apparently, he just throws a bunch of energy attacks, and his energy attacks are ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, you can't stop or prevent the Destructo Disc. That's a huge advantage for Krillin decks, because they know if they're playing like an orange or a black deck, they know that they can just get a critical effect whenever they want. Or, if your opponent's getting low on life cards, they know that they can kill them. If the game's getting on and they have like 2 Destructo Discs in their hand, or if they're on level 4 and they have a Destructo Disc and then another styled attack, you're like, okay, well, I know that I can enter combat and kill this person. Which is not a guaranteed thing at all for any other personality.
Krillin's definitely awesome. Alright.
Oh yeah, just a shout out to the Krillin. One of my favorite characters from Dragon Ball Z, just as a side note. I'm glad to see that he's really good in the card game as well. In the old Score Dragon Ball Z card game, he wasn't really that great. I mean, he could work in certain decks, but he was nowhere near as good as he is in the new game, and I'm happy to see him getting some love.
Man, all right, I think it's time to move on. It's gonna be
all
a
right.
really long video. All right. Well, speaking of people with critical damage effects on their power.
Yep, and probably one of the reasons that Krillin and Piccolo are both so popular is because of that critical effect.
Yep. So, Piccolo level 1, energy attack costs 1, dealing 3 life cards of damage, rejuvenate 1, 3 PUR. Level 2, power, discard a card from your hand to regenerate 2 cards, and your opponent discards the top 2 cards of his life deck. If you discard a styled card, you may draw a card and use a critical damage effect, 3 PUR. Level 3, your attacks deal +2 life cards of damage. Once per combat, when you deal critical damage, you may search your life deck for a Dragon Ball and place it into play, 4 PUR. And level 4, constant effect, your opponent needs to deal 7 or more life cards of damage to activate critical damage. Power, energy attack costs 2, dealing 7 life cards of damage. If it hits, you regenerate X equals number of Dragon Balls in play, 5 PUR. You can go ahead and start this one off, Mr. Demakian.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with Piccolo. I used him. He was my main personality in my Namekian deck. I play a Namekian deck primarily. I've got one with Lord Slug now, but I also still have my Piccolo Namekian deck. I have both. But oh my god, man, he is. I haven't really used him a whole lot in other decks, but just from the way he works in a Namekian deck, it's like he was made for a Namekian, honestly. But his powers are so versatile that you can really use him in a bunch of types. What I like the most about him is he's not just focused on one thing, like Krillin that we just talked about. He's focused all on attacks. No, Piccolo's not like that. He's got a little variety, and I love that with Namekian because Namekian's like that anyways. They always have a variety of options to choose from, and that's kind of how Piccolo is. He's like, well, I'm not just going to focus on doing damage. I'm going to try and do a few things at the same time. Like on his level 1, it's an energy attack. It does 3 life cards. It only costs 1, which is pretty cool, and it rejuvenates 1, which if you're Namekian, you get an anger from your mastery as well. And his level 2 is probably the best power, just because it's a level 2, so it's easy to get to, and you get a guaranteed critical effect if you discard a styled card from your hand with it, and you get to draw another card to replace it. So it's it's not really like Krillin's level 1 ability where you have to have some other effect that triggers it. Like you have to use something else to discard a card from somebody's hand to use a critical effect. Piccolo level 2 allows you to do that automatically. You don't need any other card to combo with it. So you can use him in whatever deck you want. And you are guaranteed to get a critical effect every single combat. For free, essentially. I mean, because you're going to draw another card to replace it. And in the Namekian deck especially, it's very effective at stacking the deck. You could potentially stack your deck up to draw into a card that you need, on top of getting the critical effects and rejuvenating 2, mind you, and having your opponent discard top 2 cards of their life deck. It's such a powerful effect just to have that guaranteed crit. And I know one of the popular deck types now with the set 3 coming out is a blue Piccolo deck, which has had some success at the regionals here recently. Because you can go to level 2, I forget the name of that blue card, but allows you from set 3, allows you when entering combat to go to level 2 immediately. And getting immediately on the level 2 Piccolo can put so much pressure on so many deck types, because he can counter anyone really. If your opponent's playing a Dragon Ball deck, you can capture his Dragon Balls. If your opponent's playing an ally deck, like a Captain Ginyu, you can get rid of his allies. If your opponent's trying to win by MVP, you can lower his anger. I mean, a critical effect is such a big part of the game, and having the ability to do that at will is humongous. And that's what makes the level 2 Piccolo so strong, is the options that you have available. Because you can choose, it's not just a guaranteed, it's just an energy attack or something like that. No, it's a situational ability that you can use it however, whatever works for you best at the time.
Yeah, and that card, by the way, is Blue Dominance. The one you're talking about, you can't win by MPP. If you use it, it's the setup, and use when entering combat, you advance or lower your main personality to level 2. And then you also get to choose 2 drills in your discard pile and place them into play.
Oh yeah, okay. Blue Dominance. Yeah, that card. Yeah, it works extremely well with Piccolo level 2 because he has one of the strongest level 2 abilities out right now. Also works really well with Frieza, Golden Frieza. Another good card to combo with that one. Yeah. And then let's see, Piccolo's level 3. Some people say this is his weakest personality level. I personally think his level 1's weakest, but that's my opinion. His level 3 adds 2 life cards of damage to all of your attacks, which is great. I mean, whenever I'm playing in my Namekian deck, at least, that extra 2 life cards is massive. It's huge, because Namekian doesn't really have very large energy attacks to begin with. There are 4 life cards, but some of them, I mean, a lot of them actually are only 3 life cards damage. There's the occasional 5, there's like a couple of them that are 5. But having 2 more, like, you don't really do many critical hits with your Namekian decks if you have an energy attack, because it just doesn't do enough damage. You need modifiers from some other source. And that's what I really love about the Piccolo level 3, is that if you get to that point, if you're able to get to level 3, you're going to start hitting them extremely hard with your attacks. And if you do happen to get a critical damage effect, as a bonus, hey, guess what? I get to search my life deck for a Dragon Ball and place it into play. Once per combat, of course. Which in a Namekian deck is ridiculous. Because, of course, they manipulate Dragon Balls like nobody's business. And Piccolo, that's like I was saying earlier, he has so much versatility. He does multiple things. He's adding damage to your attacks, and he's giving you some Dragon Ball control. And his level 2, he's allowing you to switch cards in your hand for something. Maybe discard a card that you don't like to draw something that's better, and you're also getting to do a critical effect. It's his level 1 is not just an energy attack, but he also lets you rejuvenate and potentially gain an anger if you're a Namekian. He has so many different effects happening on his cards, and I think that's really what makes him so powerful. It's just the versatility. He's not so focused on one thing. It's not a one-track mind kind of a deal. And then on to his level 4. This is really great if you're running, again, Namekian. That's what I play, so that's what I'm going to keep referencing. Your opponent needs to deal 7 or more life cards to activate critical damage. This is fantastic if you're going for Dragon Ball Victory, because your chances are you're going to be level 3 or 4 if you're getting close to Dragon Ball Victory anyways, unless you just had a crazy fast game. And if you get to level 4, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to stop your Dragon Ball Victory. You're 7 life cards to activate critical damage, and then there's the Namekian card on top of it that stops an energy attack and makes it to where they have to deal an additional +2 life cards to do a critical effect. If you could draw both of those, your opponent's just really not capturing your Dragon Balls. Namekian has the other card that stops a physical attack, which allows them, also says they can't capture your Dragon Balls. So comboing all those cards together, or just using them separately, makes it to where it's very difficult for your opponent to capture your Dragon Balls. And if you get to level 4, you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself a Dragon Ball Victory eventually, if you don't just straight up kill them with your massive energy attack doing 7 life cards of damage from his power. And it works with Dragon Balls as well. It's like they kind of geared his level 4 towards Dragon Ball Victory, it seems, because his power does say, it's this energy attack, and if successful or on hit, you rejuvenate X, and X is the number of Dragon Balls in play. And if you're getting close to winning by Dragon Ball Victory anyways, that attack is humongous. It does 7 life cards, and you can rejuvenate potentially 5 or 6 cards back into your deck, which is enormous. You get a humongous advantage on anybody if you get that off successfully.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to comment on that?
Yeah. If you're good on that. So I know you kept referencing Namekian because you're a Namekian player, and I'm red, so I'm gonna throw this out there for red real quick. And obviously he works with like you mentioned earlier, he's really good with blue and some other styles. His level 4, since we ended at level 4 here. As far as the deal the 7 or more life cards of damage for critical, not only is that good for Dragon Ball Victory, it's also good for MPP. Because I don't know how many times that I get hit in red and I have no endurance to do anything with, and they keep me from winning by MPP by dealing 5 life cards of damage. And it's super annoying. So his level 4 helps out with that, and I know a lot of people actually play Red Piccolo as well, because of the card I have here, Piccolo's Weighted Clothing. So, as we mentioned, Krillin had 2 really awesome cards for his personality. Piccolo's got 2 really good cards. One is really awesome for certain situations. The other one, in my opinion, is awesome for all situations. But it, depending on who you are, you might not agree with me. But Piccolo's Weighted Clothing. Okay, so it's an event. If it's in your discard pile, you may banish it as an action to gain 2 anger, which is what 99.9% of the people in the world do. It also has a power that used when during combat as the defender. Your opponent skips his first action during combat, and you gain X stages. X equals your PUR. So, he's got an awesome card that he can play from his discard pile. How many cards can you just straight play from your discard pile, or use from your discard pile, and get some awesome effect out of it? It's 2 anger. It helps you get from level 1 to level 2 if you're stuck. That's a big deal. Like you were saying earlier, you feel his level 1 is his weakest. Out of all 4 of his levels. He has a personality card that just straight up, oh, you know what, I don't want to be on level 1 anymore. If you dish out enough damage to me, I'm going to get to level 2. You can't do anything about it. or whatever other level you want to do. With MPP decks, it's awesome because that's just 2 anger that you are gaining without having to use a card. And I know not a lot of people don't use the card for the. Oh, go ahead.
I would say it's at will. Like all you have to do is just take damage, and like you randomly discard a Piccolo's weight of clothing, and then you just can use it right then. It's like, oh, okay, well I guess thank you. I will gain 2 anger.
Right, that's happened a lot, honestly. I'd be playing against a red Piccolo deck, or even making Piccolo, honestly, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm finally dishing out some damage to Piccolo, finally, I feel like I'm doing good, and next thing I know, he's got 3 weighted clothing in his discard pile, and he's like, are you done doing what you're doing? Because I'm going to level up and then kill you. What? What?
Yes, that happens frequently.
Yeah. And then it does have a power on it for the gaining stages when entering as a defender. Now, I don't know a lot of situations where you would use this personally. I've played Namekian as defending with Piccolo before, and I actually enjoyed it, especially back before they changed the mastery. But, I mean, it can come in good situation where you're like, okay, I played a couple of Dragon Balls or some setups or something, and you decide to keep Piccolo's weighted clothing. Okay, you get to go first instead of them. They have to skip their first action. And then you get to gain some stages. So, I mean, there's something good about it. If they're a physical beatdown against you, you know what? I get to gain, at level 4, I get to gain 5 stages and I get to start first in that combat. So, I mean, it can have some good points to it. But the 2 anger is a big deal with that card.
I think that's the primary use from that card is the actually using it from your discard pile to get the 2 anger.
Yeah, that 99.9%.
Yeah, the other effects. Yeah, 90% of the time you're going to use it for that. Of course, there are the situational moments when you may want to, say your opponent enters, you're in a rough spot, and you want to enter, say, use Visiting the Past into Piccolo's weighted clothing, play that from your hand to start first, and then somehow in combat, which I've seen done, which is a really good idea, a really good way to use the card. Mm-hmm. Just keep that in mind. You can use it that way. You can use it defensively as well. To kind of save yourself from any rough situations you may find yourself in. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, most definitely. I was just going to say, the other card is the Piccolo Special Beam Cannon. Now, some people don't always like to use this card, but this card is it's like one of the best named utility cards in the game, in my opinion. It's energy attack, cost 2, dealing 3, regen 1. It name 2 different non-Dragon Ball cards, search your opponent's life deck for 1 copy of each, and banish them. Okay, yeah, say I'm not playing black, and I don't have a bazillion effects to do this, or I'm not even playing Namekian, so I'm not going to gain the anger off of this. It's still an attack that if it hits, I can name Time is a Warrior's Tool, I can name Wall Breaker, I can name Confrontation, I can name all these cards that specifically are against me, and I can search my opponent's deck for 2 different cards and banish them. I mean, that is just perfect utility for any deck, no matter what you're playing as.
Right, yeah, definitely. And that's one of the reasons that Piccolo is so strong, I think. He's so versatile, is that, like you said, you don't have to be a black deck, and you can still get rid of those key cards in your opponent's deck that may be hindering you or keeping you from victory. Because you get to choose, man. It's up to you.
Yeah,
and they are just banished.
So, something I do want to say, you said his level 1 is what you feel his weakest is, and I'm one of those players that say his level 3 is his weakest because I normally play weak decks, so I don't get much out of level 3 when I'm not using Dragon Balls. But I will say his level 3 is one of those attacks that really makes your opponent, question if they want to defend or not. Because, yes,
his level 1, you mean?
Or yeah, his level 1. Because, yeah, it's energy attack, cost 1, dealing 3, regenerate 1. You don't feel like it gets much effect out of it, but it really plays mind games with your opponent when it comes to the fact it's like, okay, well, I'm going to play energy attack, cost 1, dealing 3. And your opponent's like, well, you know what? I'm going to take it. It's really weak. It's not going to be crit. And they take it. And then the rest of the combat, you just defend yourself. And then they're like, wait, what? Huh? And then you're like, yeah. Next combat, energy attack, cost 1, dealing 3. And you slowly whittle them down, and they're just like freaking out because they're like, I could be stopping that attack, but I need to save it for a bigger attack. And you're like, until you stop my power, I'm not going to bother wasting my big attacks on you, I mean, unless I have a handful of huge attacks or a handful of attacks that I want to get off, I can easily sit there and just be like, I'm going to control the board. I'm in control, and I'm going to sit here and ping you to death. And ping you to death. And I'm going to regenerate, too, with that same card that pings you to death. You know?
That is very true. It is good in that sense. I'm not saying it's a bad power at all. It's a very good power. It's just I think it's his weakest of the four personally. But yeah, I mean it only costs one stage. Like that's nothing. That barely costs anything. And you rejuvenate one also. So if you think about it, like the advantage in life cards that you're getting, like if it were a normal energy attack that did 4 life cards, your opponent would lose 4 life cards. Well, you're still dealing 3 and gaining 1 back. So there's still a total difference of 4 life cards between you two decks. So it's not like it's any weaker. It's really the same as a normal standard energy attack, but it only costs 1 stage. And like you said, it's a little weaker, so your opponent may not want to stop it, and they'll save a defense, and then like you said, you just got some free damage on them basically.
Yeah, and then the Regeneron, it's hilarious when... It's not hilarious when you play against it, but you know, it's like, oh, you perform an attack, I'm going to Time as Warrior's Tool, and then I'm going to use Piccolo's level 1 power and regenerate it. Like, it's just, you instantly get it back. You instantly get Time as Warrior's Tool back, or you can get a Confrontation back, or you can get something back really quick, you know, right there, and not have to worry about them banishing it out of your discard pile with, like, Devastating Blow or any of the black cards, because you get it back right then.
I do love that, yes. I do that so many times. Especially with Time as a Warrior's Tool, that's like the perfect card to do it with, because you defend with it and then immediately rejuvenate with its ability. And it is very powerful to be able to reuse cards like Time as a Warrior's Tool, and having a card, you know, your personality power is always there. It's just whenever you want to use it, you can choose the best time to rejuvenate. You know, keep that in mind. Don't just always do it just for the attack. You want to rejuvenate the best possible card you can rejuvenate as well, just to get the most out of his ability.
Yeah. And just a cool combo that I saw someone do the other day. Actually, I haven't actually got to do this combo. I wish I could. And this will work also in Namekian with a different set of cards. But I saw someone the other day. He was at level 1. He used Red Double Strike, so it's physical attack, dealing at AT, gain 1 anger. He was just an MPP Piccolo deck. But he used it twice, and then he used Piccolo's power to regenerate it, and then he Red Left Bolt and drew right back and used it again. I mean, what personalities are going to allow you to just set things up so you can reuse a card really fast like that, you know?
Right.
So, on to the next.
All right, next personality.
Oh, I don't want to look at this one.
Oh, take it away. It hurts.
My eyes. I still think that they should have made your opponent had to be Goku to hit level 3, and they should have allowed Captain Ginyu to use Namekian style cards once he hit level 4. I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's pretty reasonable. I mean, I don't think he would probably still be just as powerful. He'd still kick everyone's ass still, but
right.
You know.
But you just have a Namekian deck sitting off to the side. When you hit level 4, you switch decks.
But it's, yeah, I mean, he's a frog though. It couldn't be that big. It'd be like 15 life cards.
Right. Wasn't there? There was someone. I don't remember. There was some character in some card game that was kind of like that. Like when you hit that character, you automatically had 15 cards left or something. Actually, I think that was in the WoW game. But anyways, so Captain Ginyu, level 1. He's only got 2 PUR, but that doesn't matter. He's got an energy attack cost 3, dealing 4 life cards. Search your life deck for an ally and place it into play at 4 power stages above 0. Hit. Choose one of your allies in play. That ally can make actions regardless of your MP's power stage this combat. Level 2. 3 PUR. Energy attack costs 2. Damages 4 life cards. Search your discard pile for an ally and place it into play at 5 power stages above 0. Raise your anger X levels. X equals the number of your Ginyu Force allies in play. Level 3. Constant effect. Your Ginyu Force allies may make actions regardless of your MP's power stages, and they cannot be discarded, which is eroded from critical damage effects. All of your attacks deal +2 life cards of damage. Level 4. Constant effect. Your allies may make actions regardless of your MP's power stage, and they cannot be discarded from critical damage effects. All of your attacks deal plus X life cards of damage. X equals the number of allies you have in play when you perform that attack. Only one PUR on that one.
That's all you need.
That is all you need, man. I'm going to just start at level 4, man. I'm just going to start here at level 4. He is in A on the AT table. He is not a physical beatdown if you get to level 4 and plan on using him at level 4 unless you're just like trying to MPP for some reason. But having, I mean, let's see. You get X is the number of allies you have in play. Okay, how many allies are out now for villains? What we got, like 14 or something like that? I mean, I know that's a little ridiculous to say I have 14 allies in play, but all my attacks still like plus 14 life cards of damage? Yeah, why not? Why not? That sounds good, right?
Well, it's not so easy to have that many allies in play, though. Especially getting to level 4 and having all those allies in play. But that's not to say it's hard either, because he is Captain Ginyu. I mean, look at his abilities. They all get allies back. I mean, his level 1 and 2 at least. His level 1 gets one from his deck, just straight away, and his level 2 gets one from his discard pile. And he can just keep doing that. So it's, I mean, yeah, once he gets past his level 2, he has to rely on other abilities to get his allies back. But it's not hard. If you're playing Ginyu, you're going to have other cards in your deck, like Overpowering Attack, for example, to get allies back into play. So when you do get to level 4, you're probably going to still have at least 3 or 4 allies, I would say. And that's a massive bonus still. That's a massive bonus to your attacks. Every single one of your attacks. It doesn't say styled, you know, not energy attacks. No, all of your attacks do plus X life cards. That's huge.
That is major. That is really good. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, Overpowering Attack to get him back. He also has like his card, his Captain Ginyu's Body Switch, allowing him to just straight up level. You gain 6 anger from that, and so I mean, just running 3 of those in your deck, you just hit level 4. Just so simple.
Yeah, it is situational though. Your opponent has to have a higher power rating than you, yeah. But it's not hard with Ginyu because you're going to want to use some energy attacks in your deck anyways, just to get lower power stages to use your allies. So chances are you're going to be, you know, lower down on your power stages. So they're probably going to be stronger than you anyways, regardless of how strong their personality really is. So yeah, the Captain Ginyu's Body Switch is a great card because it just allows you to jump up levels really quick, and the higher levels of Captain Ginyu are very powerful. Really, all of them are powerful. I mean, he doesn't have a weak personality. No. They're all extremely strong.
I mean, yeah. I was trying to think which one would be the weakest, and I was like, well, you know, I mean, you got level 3, but then, you know, your Ginyu Force allies can still make actions regardless. Granted, that's only 3 allies though. On that versus, right. You know, his level 4, all your allies can make actions. But I mean, he's still getting +2 life cards even off his level 3. So, and his level 2, you're not even going to be on level 2 very long. I mean, you're going to gain anger based off your Ginyu Force allies. I mean, unless you specifically don't go for Ginyu Force allies and you just want to set at level 2, which might not be a bad idea. I mean, there's some. I mean, the Ginyu Force allies are definitely good. They're definitely good. But there's a chance that, you know, later on there's going to be enough, you know, allies that you don't even need the Ginyu Force because you've got enough good allies that aren't Ginyu Force, and you could easily use his level 2 power and just sit there and be like, oh, you get rid of an ally, that's fine, I'm gonna bring it right back, and I'm just gonna set at level 2 and just keep bringing them back.
Oh, definitely. His level 2 is great to protect your allies, like you said. Just keep bringing them back into play. Another advantage of another good personality to use with that blue card. I forget the name of it already.
Yeah, yeah, blue. Which I haven't seen anybody play that yet. Actually, come to think about it, blue dominance. That's what it is.
Blue dominance, right? And it's a perfect counter to Piccolo's level 2. If your opponent's playing Piccolo, if Piccolo's like, you know, I'm going to discard one of your allies every single combat. Well, you can just get that ally right back every single combat.
Yep.
I mean, whenever I'm playing Ginyu and I get rid of some of his key allies, and you know I've just destroyed them, I haven't actually banished them. If he gets to level 2, it doesn't even matter at that point because he's just going to get all of his good allies back, all of the ones that are more beneficial to the situation because he gets to pick and choose whatever he wants from his discard pile. And I rejoice usually when he leaves level 2. Because that's the end of the ally recycling stage. Then he just has to rely on all the other cards in his deck. Yes, his level 3 does extra damage and allows his allies to take over whenever he wants, but at least he can't just keep getting them back. And that's really one of the key strengths of Ginyu, is his ability to just get his allies out so quickly and keep them out with his personality levels. Because his level 1, as his first action, usually, of every game I've ever seen Ginyu being used, his level 1 power is the first action that's taken. Because you just get a huge advantage. You get to pick any ally in your deck that you want, which could be any number of things, depending on the situation. It could help you in a number of ways. But it's not just like, it's the same effect every time. It's really not, because that's going to change with each set. Each set has different allies, which is going to alter his abilities, basically. You're getting different abilities on his level 1 and 2 each time a new set comes out, which is pretty neat to think about. He gets more powerful, he gets more versatile with each set that comes out because of that, being ally-focused. And then, his level 2 gets one back from the discard pile, as I've said already. But the great thing about it is, if he is using the great thing for his opponent, let me rephrase, is that he's not going to be on level 2 very long if he's using the Ginyu Force allies, because he does raise his anger with the ability itself. So it's not too oppressing, I guess. It's still slightly oppressing, yes, but not too oppressing.
Right. I will say, out of the the Krillin and the Piccolo we obviously talked about, his other card is not highly played. Captain Ginyu's Pain. Banish after use. Destroy the top X cards of your opponent's life deck. X equals the number of allies in your discard pile and banish zone. And this comes back to the whole fact I was talking about 14 allies at level 4. I mean, granted, that could be a good card to use if you pull it, but situation is very low, I guess, for it to actually be beneficial over another card.
Yeah, I have, like you said, it's not really played much. I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually use that card. And I've played against a whole bunch of Ginyu decks because he's very popular. And I've never seen anyone actually using that card.
Yeah, I can see later on, and it'd be hilarious. I would totally make a deck just for this. It would be like a suicide deck. I'm playing Ginyu. I'm using level 1 just to get an ally out, and I run all the villain allies. I don't care how many there are. Half my deck's villain allies. I don't care. And then okay, you dealt. I'm gonna make this even better. I got Visage in play. Okay, you hit me for 10, I'm going to Visage you for 20, then you hit me for 10, and then I'm going to use Captain Ginyu's Pain and hit you for 20 because I got 20 allies in my discard pile. Because that's most of my deck is allies. I think that card might be more popular later, but right now I feel like there's so many more better cards, especially for tournament standpoint. There's way better cards to use instead of that card, but for fun, I think that card is definitely a fun card as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, it's definitely a more casual oriented card because it's so situational. You don't know how many allies are going to be in your discard pile, your banish zone. There's really no telling. What if your opponent doesn't get rid of any of them, or what if you draw it early in the game and you don't have very many in play? Even you haven't even seen very many allies yet. It's one of those things that you want to play later in the game, and hopefully your opponent has actually discarded your allies, or you've taken them as damage or something like that. So it's just because it's not a very reliable card is probably why it's not used in tournaments very often. But yeah, like you were saying, maybe later on when there's a whole bunch of allies, you could make a pretty neat deck, I think, with just 3 of those, and every other card is an ally.
Yeah.
Just instant win.
Yeah, would be funny. And I want to bring back up the level 2 because I think the not gaining anger at level 2, if you can make it to where you don't use Ginyu Force allies, he'd be really cool. And I was just looking through that entire time trying to make sure all the allies, I was going to say this right, but so you have Kami for heroes right now that anytime he leaves play, he has an effect that happens. They don't have any villains like that right now. If they make a villain that has when this leaves play for any reason, Captain Ginyu's level 2 is going to skyrocket on how awesome it is, because if that villain ally has a really good leaving play ability, you can literally use Captain Ginyu's level 2 power to cycle that level, cycle that ally. You just pull them back, and then you use something to discard them. You pull them back, you use something to discard them, and you can really cycle that out. It's going to be really hard for Panini to make a card similar to Kami, but for villains, with Captain Ginyu's level 2 being Captain Ginyu's level 2.
That's actually a very good point. Very good point, because it does restrict the kind of ally powers they can make, because they have to keep Ginyu in mind when they're making villain allies. They have to keep him in mind, because he can just straight, like you said, if they have a when leaving play effect, or when entering play or whatever, he can get them out so easily with his card effects that he could definitely abuse them, like nobody else would be able to. And a seemingly benign card with someone entering or leaving a play effect will just become outright outrageous with Captain Ginyu at the helm, pulling him out continuously. So yeah, it does. The way his abilities are worded puts a lot of restrictions on what allies can be made in the future. So, and also, because he is so popular right now too, and he's very popular in organized play, just because he's so strong. I mean, he's as we've been saying, he's a very powerful personality. But because of that, Panini has their eyes on him. They're looking at Captain Ginyu, and they're monitoring him closely to see if they want to do anything about it. Do they want to step in and say, oh, maybe we should change him? Maybe he's too strong. Maybe kind of like a wall breaker situation where they make cards in later sets that are specifically against Captain Ginyu. Or maybe not specifically, but they work really well against him, just to give people more tools to work against him. Or like the Namekian Mastery, where they just went ahead and changed the ability of the card. That may be coming for Ginyu. We don't know, and it's just something to keep in mind, because he is such a dominant force in the tournament scene right now that just his very presence is going to alter the future course of the game for sure.
Which means if you really love Ginyu and you don't want him changed for any reason, you need to tell your friends to stop playing him, and then only you play him. Because there's only a couple people playing him. They're obviously not going to do anything about it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm telling people not to play him. But, and that's one thing, and I obviously I don't like playing against Ginyu for any reason, and I don't enjoy playing as Ginyu because I'm not a big board play fan. I like just physical energy beatdown, mainly physical. But he is a good card. He does have good combos, and he is super fun to play if you like board control for sure. But back to the whole thing of making cards against him, or against how powerful he can be. Like, I really felt like in set 2 they did that with the whole red has a bazillion automatic crits. Now, I know that definitely helps red out because they only gain anger from their mastery if they crit, because their mastery's, not that great. But I mean, getting so many things specifically against allies to try to balance out, a main personality, that also unbalances the, other deck types that, okay, I can't get allies out nowhere near as fast as Ginyu, but I like to still use allies and they're still beneficial. They're pointless. Like, Bulma against red after set 2, she was almost pointless, because it was like, oh, well, I can grab, because normally people grab shoulder grab, and it was like, oh, I'll just grab shoulder grab, then I don't have to worry about shoulder grab, and it was hard for me to get crits out. But then set 2, it was like, oh, well, I got like 15 cards that guarantee me a crit, so either you choose shoulder grab and I just automatically crit her and get it back, or you choose a card that automatically would crit her, and I'll try to find another card to crit her with. I mean, it just, that's one thing I do worry about, is like when you make when you're trying to balance out a game, it's difficult. It is difficult, and making things specific to certain situations will hurt other situations.
Oh yeah, and that's a really good example that you just gave, because Ginyu is all about the allies. So if they make things to counter him, well, they're probably going to be things to counter allies, because that's really his main strength. And if they do that, as you were saying, they're going to hurt everybody else that wants to use allies too. And then, and then allies just aren't going to be a big part of the game anymore. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully that's not where they're headed. I mean, yeah, we have the critical effects, of course, which get rid of allies, but which more of those would be okay, but cards that just specifically hate on allies, I think we have enough of them right now. Even though Ginyu is strong and people need the cards to get rid of allies to defeat Ginyu, I think we have enough. And I don't think there needs to be a whole lot more ally hate. Otherwise, we're just going to see allies disappear from tournaments.
Yeah.
Because they're powerful right now as it is, and it's interesting to see how allies can change the course of the game, even in non-Ginyu decks. But they're a lot more strategically used, I've noticed, in non-Ginyu decks. Because Ginyu's just like, I'm just going to throw out pretty much whatever allies I get. I don't really care. I just want to have a whole bunch of allies. The more the merrier, basically, for Ginyu. But for everyone else, it's like, well, I just have like maybe 2 or 3 allies in my deck, and they're really only useful in certain situations. Well, if there's a whole bunch of ally hate in the game, then you're just going to lose those options. Because as soon as you play one, it's going to get lost from a critical effect or whatever.
Yeah.
So hopefully they just keep it like it is. I mean, yes, Ginyu is powerful. He's oppressive. But I think as far as like right now with set 3, I don't think he's too strong. I don't think he's overpowered. I think he's just about right, to be honest.
Yeah, and I definitely want to see more heroes, more people that use heroes use actually the hero allies, because the hero allies are really awesome. And I know there were some people that went to Gen Con that did really well that were heroes that used hero allies, and I'm really glad to see that, because I felt like in set 1 and 2, you know, it was mainly the only villain allies that got used, or only allies that got used were pretty much villains, and most of them were in Captain Ginyu decks. And as far as heroes were concerned, I mainly only saw Bulma. Unless they were for some reason using Gohan to make in, and they decided to go with, you know, Piccolo and Chi-Chi, you know, essentially it was only Bulma. And I really like the ally powers when it comes to strategic play, like you're talking about using it strategically. I want to see more players use hero allies, and I don't want to, you know, I would hate for something to be unbalanced to where people just, like, you know what, it just never happens. Hero allies just never existed in tournament play because they had to fix the villain allies, you know.
Yeah, everyone's running so many cards to defeat a Ginyu in case they run against him that anyone who just has a couple of allies in their deck is never going to get to use them, basically.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we've gone long enough. Thanks for sticking with us. If you're still there, if you're not, well, I guess goodbye. But so leave comments below about any cards you want us to talk about, think about any strategies or even combos that you've either played or seen. Like the video if you like it, and big thanks to Fearless for all the audio work that he does for us, not only the intro but the audio work for our actual voices as well, making them sound pretty or awesome or whatever he does. I don't know, it's over my head.
Yeah.
But once again, my name's Steven.
Yep, I'm Justin. Take it easy, guys.
Later.